Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this Friday, the 29th of May, 2020. Now, what all do they know and that they haven't been telling us? I've been sitting here thinking about this a lot, and I know I've done shows on what happened back in 2008. I said that was a contraction of the whole world's financial system. That was a contraction. Basically, the bubbles they had already created and things like real estate and stuff started to pop. And they had to support it. They had to come in and support it with tremendous amounts of money. Quantitative easing 1, quantitative easing 2, quantitative easing 3, Operation Twist, and so on. And they were able to stabilize the system for about 11 years or so, since 2008 until now, 12 years. They've been able to stabilize the system by adding money, but they keep having to add more and more money. They just added $4 trillion and now, and the size of the stimulus now at this point is making what they did back in 2008 look rather tame and small, and still it's not enough. The reason why is when they started this fiat monetary Ponzi scheme, they knew it was following an exponential curve. And they probably didn't know exactly how long it would take before it reached the exponential point where it goes straight up. They probably figured it would be more than 100 years, and they were right, and they weren't worried about it because they said, well, to themselves, we won't be here to have to deal with this problem when it comes, So, but as soon as they put their John Henry on the papers to initiate the new monetary system back in 1914, it was already set in stone what was going to happen in the future. And that would be an exponential, that the money would go exponential at a certain point. And inflation would go exponential at the same time. But at the same time, if they let it burst, then all the bubbles burst and everything comes to a stop. Everything runs on money. Power companies that supply your power run on money. Trucking companies that bring your food, they run on money. Everything runs on money. Right? Everything in the system runs on money. Our very lives run on money because we can't survive for very long without water and food. And money is what brings your water and food to your home. And so when they set this system in place, they also set it's a fiat monetary Ponzi scheme, and it has an exponential to it. And going way back into the 1960s, they could probably, with their computers they had in the 1960s, they could probably analyze the numbers and figure out more or less within maybe a few years of when this Ponzi scheme would come to an end and the exponential would go completely exponential to the sky. Our brains don't really understand exponential growth. And what we have here is it started to go exponential back in 2008. That's when it started to you started the first part of that curve. And now we're much further into the curve. We only got months left. You can count it in months. They're going to have to keep chasing this thing, and it's going to keep going ever and ever faster. Right now, they've dumped $4 trillion in this. It's being absorbed at lightning speed. And probably within another 2 months, they'll probably need $8 trillion. And then a couple months later, they'll need $16 trillion or $32 trillion. And it's just going to keep going that way. And in the end, they can't. One of two things has to happen here. There's no way out, first off. This is going exponential. The money around the world, all the fiat currencies are going exponential. There's no way out at this point. We've only got, you can count it in months how much time we got left before this goes. And, because there's no way out, there's only two ways that it can go. One, they can let everything burst. They can let all the bubbles burst. The housing bubbles, real estate, cars, everything. And let the money bubble burst, and then all the money would disappear overnight. There'd be no money. It would, everything would just basically stop. And so for these people out there, there's a lot of people out there on the deflation camp, and they're saving their dollars right now because they figure the system's going to deflate and their dollars are going to be worth an awful lot more money. And they figure, hey, I'm going to save these dollars because if it deflates, my dollar's going to be able to buy like $1,000 worth of stuff. And so they're thinking to themselves, I'm going to save a whole bunch of dollars and save them in because that's what's going to happen. Well, I'm here to tell you, if it does deflate, if everything pops and the everything bubble, all the money's going to disappear. And the dollar will, for a very short period in time, go up in value enormously. But then the system will cease to function. It'll freeze. And you won't be able to spend your dollar anywhere because the system's frozen. Every place it takes dollars, it'll all be frozen. The system just won't work. It won't function. That kind of deflation, the system just locks up completely. And we see how the system is starting to lock up now a little bit, and because there's a somewhat deflation hitting one side of the economy right now, while the other side, they're inflating it still. So we're looking at the everything that's connected to the dollar, all your money market funds, your mutual funds, they're buying everything. The Fed's buying everything. Junk bonds are buying everything, and they're inflating that side of the system right now. While the other side of the system right now is deflating, starting to deflate. The side of the system where small businesses are and stuff like that is deflating right now. It's an unusual situation going on. But the end game in all of this is, ultimately, if they let it go deflation, the whole system will freeze up entirely. Nothing will function. Everything will stop. The power will go out. Power grid will go down if they let it deflate. So they can't let it deflate. The only other option then is to keep inflating it. And because it's in an exponential at this point, every month is going to require twice as much as it did the month before. It's going, the rocket ship's taking off now at this point. It's 4 trillion this month, 8 trillion next month. The month after that, 32 trillion, then a gazillion. It's just gonna shoot to the moon. There's no chasing it. They chase it, they're gonna hyperinflate the dollar. They're gonna hyperinflate all the fiat currencies. And I believe to buy a little bit of extra time to keep the system from locking up entirely, that's what they're gonna do. They're going to keep chasing it. What other choice do they have other than let the system lock up? They're not going to let the system lock up. They're going to keep chasing it. Keep adding more money to the pool. Keep the bubbles from popping. And soon, they're going to have to start inflating both sides of the economy. They've been holding off. They've been doing a little bit, like giving $1,200 stimulus checks and stuff like that, and upping the amount of people's unemployment compensation, stuff like that. But they're going to really have to pour the money into the other side of the economy, or the whole thing's going to lock up anyway. And so they just got to keep printing, and they can't stop, and they're going to have to print in ever greater amounts because it's going exponential. And so they're going to hyperinflate, and this is we're at the end stage of an exponential curve right now, and I can't begin to tell you guys, this is the part where, like you've all heard about the stadium filling with water, and the water drop doubles every 30 seconds or something. The last 5 minutes, it all fills up. We're in that last 5 minutes, and we're actually in the last few seconds of the last 5 minutes. It's endgame. This is the end game. We're in the end game right now. This thing's going to hyperinflate. Either that, or it's going to deflate and everything's going to stop. And if everything stops, your hoarded dollars won't work. They just won't work. So that's of no use. But it isn't going to go that way. They're not going to let it because they know that they would lose power. If quite literally, the power would go off. The grid would go down. if they let it deflate. They can't let it deflate. So they're going to keep stimulating it up, up, up. It's going to, and in the end, the dollar's going to be worth zilch. Nothing. That's what's going to happen. And so there's the whole thing now boils down to one thing only. For mankind's survival is, can mankind make the transition when the dollar and all the other fiat currencies hyperinflate? Can mankind make that transition over to a hard money system from all of this junk, garbage we call money now? Can we make that transition without everything locking up and without the world coming, without everything grinding to a stop? Can we make that transition smoothly over to a hard money system? Over to things that are hard money, like gold, silver, and yes, I'm going to say it, crypto. Anything is hard money if it's in limited supply. Limited supply is the most important thing of being hard money. It's because they cannot inflate it. That's why these fiat currencies, they would have lasted forever if they have not have inflated them. If they weren't on an exponential, this is the whole problem. Is they're inflating them away. And they're creating these bubbles doing so. Boy, I don't know how. I can tell you guys, we only got a very short period of time left before this becomes self-evident. Right now, I'm telling you guys about this, and it's not really self-evident to everyone yet. You're a little bit ahead of the curve. There's a lot of people out there don't know about this. They think it's going to deflate. They're out there hoarding dollars and stuff. I'm going to tell you, you guys are listening to my show. You're a little bit ahead of the curve. But this is going to start to really become self-evident in just a few more months. It's just like when I was telling you guys early on about the virus. It wasn't self-evident at that point. Later it became self-evident. This is going to become self-evident, what I've been talking about for the last 15 minutes. Or 12 minutes. I can see my timer there. But I'm telling you, this because we're on the very final stages of this exponential, it's going to really happen fast now. And it's going to be self-evident just in a few more months. And when it becomes self-evident, people are going to start to dump their money and look for something to get into to make a value. And quite literally, it could pick up the economy because around that same amount of time, I think the virus is going to start to taper back a little bit. And everybody's going to be spending. It's just going to go from nobody spending, everybody hoarding their money, to everybody trying to get rid of it as fast as they can get a hold of it. Emptying out their bank accounts because they want that new car now because they figure, well, it's going to hyperinflate anyway. And that's going to make it hyperinflate. That's going to make it go all the quicker. It's all going to be over, I think, in just not that long. I'm going to say that, I don't know, probably within the next 24 months or something. It's all going to be on a new system. Because it only gets to a certain point where it costs you like $1 trillion for an egg, and then the whole thing flips and it's dead. It's over. And the money, the wealth is all transferred then over into whatever hard asset class that they're buying to become the new money. Can we make that transition? That's the thing. That's the thing that's going through my mind. How fast is that transition going to occur? And can we make that transition smoothly from a fiat monetary system to a hard money monetary system? Time will tell. Okay, so now let's do the markets. Let me get my charts on. Right here and take a look. Silver today, we see it going up. Hard money, see? It's up 46 cents, 17.81. There she goes. Take a look at gold. 17.35. It's up today, $16.20. Hard money again, you know. Especially take a look at how even the spot price, even though the spot price is going up, it's still not keeping up with the premiums if you want the real thing. You know, that's where everybody should have been to begin with. They shouldn't have been into these exchange traded funds for gold and silver. They should be in the real thing, you know. And in this, take a look at cryptocurrency. Now, this is the same way. Cryptocurrency has a real thing. If you got your cryptocurrency on an exchange or something, that's not real. That's like an ETF. When you download that into your own personal wallet, and then you save off your keys, your private keys, then you got the real thing. You got the real cryptocurrency. And Bitcoin's 262.9 billion. Look at that price of 94.23 today. So Bitcoin is looking good. Dow Jones down 250 points on the day. 265 now. They're not going to let this bubble burst. This is a bubble. They're not going to let it go. They're not going to let it burst. I figure they're probably not going to let it go down below 18,000. Right now it wants to deflate. It wants to burst because they're getting ready for the next entrenchment of money. They're going to have to keep plowing these entrenchments of money in. And it becomes ever more volatility in the markets as they keep having to plow more and more money in. But it's heading toward hyperinflation, guys. Here we go. Crude oil, 33.51 today. It's down 20 cents on the day. U.S. Treasuries. We're looking at all the yields falling like all the way across the board. About 4 basis points, roughly. We're looking at a U.S. 10-year at 0.66 and a U.S. 30-year at 1.44. Now the dollar index, 98.41. But you know, all of these fiat currencies are falling together, and this dollar index only reflects a basket of fiat currencies. And so they're all falling together simultaneously at the same speed. And so that's why the dollar index doesn't move that much from one day to the next, you know, because all of the fiat currencies are going to be all falling at the same. They're all going to go down. What are we going to use for money? And can we make that transition over into this new hard money without the disruption breaking down society as we know it to the point where the world doesn't function? Can that be done? Can we actually move over to a hard money system without the world breaking down into complete dysfunction? That's the question mark. And the whole of everything might come down to that one simple question. Your whole life, everything you've done up till now might come down to answering that one simple question. Can we make the transition effectively without the whole world breaking down? Because that transition is going to be made because we're in this thing. This thing's gone parabolic. This thing is a Ponzi scheme, and it's ending now. We're not talking about this question being answered like 5 years from now. We're talking about this question being answered just in a matter of months from now. Can we make that transition? Thank you guys for listening. Like and subscribe. Give me a thumbs up, and we'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.